Hallelujah, 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 Erev Kodsho, hallelujah, Berkiyahuno, hallelujah, Bigvurotav, hallelujah, Kerokuno. Hallelujah, 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 betei shofar, hallelujah, betei berchinor, hallelujah, betofu machor. Hallelujah, beminim beugam. Hallelujah, 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 betzilzele shama. Hallelujah, betzilzele truah. Kol Hashama, Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah.
We move a little more swiftly than usual towards the prayers of the service so that we can get to the joy of being with Torah, talking Torah, seeing Torah, blessing Torah. But we rise now for the Baruch Hu on page 16, if you have a book.
Et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai
HaMevorach
HaMevorach
Leolam
Leolam leading us right to Shema and V'ahavta.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובישעריך למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
Yeah, one sign is worth 1,000 words. First of all, can we just give thanks for this gorgeous evening? I don't know how, but it's just beautiful, the gift of this evening. Micha Mocha, I'm far enough away. Micha Mocha is a song we remember singing on the way toward freedom. And some of our wonderful children have handed out flyers that were prepared by our social justice group led by Barak, and reminding us of other people who are on a journey toward freedom. And these are Afghan families who are right now, and several thousand, in a way station in New Jersey at a joint camp, a military camp, and in need of supplies. So on this list, on this beautiful flyer, is a list of a few items: shoes, so gently used or new, men, women, or children's shoes, strollers. How many of us have extra strollers we're ready to pass on? Winter coats, children's backpacks, and women's handbags with a long strap. There are bins outside the main building, or outside the sanctuary, and the bins will be there all the times that are listed on this flyer, only for the next 2 weeks. And so this is a short drive to collect a lot of supplies. And if you want to get new ones, you know where to go to get them and bring them here. So our memory of our trip toward freedom, we know what it was like over and over again, and we won't leave anybody alone. Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים משה מרים, צאלי ענו ויאמרו אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד.
I'm so glad that you got us thinking about dancing because we have a lot of dancing coming up. I invite everyone to stand for the last two prayers we're going to be doing together before we start our Torah celebration. Aleinu will be followed by a chance to say the Kaddish. Aleinu is our prayer of reminding ourselves we need to give thanks for the chance to live a life of joy and a life that matters and a life of making a difference.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Some of us will go home this evening to light festival candles, but before lighting the candles of the festival, we also light a Yortzeit candle. This is also a Yizkor weekend, that is this holiday, tonight and tomorrow. And we take a moment to bring into this beautiful circle of life and air and wind, to bring to mind all those whom we remember as we continue together with the Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Everyone can be seated for the moment. In many Jewish weddings, the couple decides to start the wedding with 7 circles. 7 circles represents the beginning of a new world. For a couple, it's the beginning of a new life together. And 7 reminds us of the story of creation, of bringing a new universe into being. And every year we start the reading of Torah again. We end and begin it with 7 circles with the Torah. Because we're still in a pandemic, last year we brought this new Torah scroll down Soundview Avenue a whole year ago. It's a year later, and we're here. We're here to celebrate. We have so much joy and gratitude to express tonight. So our circles will be a little different than they are under other circumstances, when we can make arches and people go under the arches and we carry Torahs. Our dancing will be a little different tonight. We're going to do 6 different times of dancing. The 7th time, the Torah will surround us. But we'll do 6 different times of dancing, and Shmulik will lead us. The dancing won't be circle dancing. We're going to dance in place. So you can dance the dances that Shmulik teaches us, or you can dance to your own drummer. It's all great on this beautiful night. Each dance will be preceded by a few people coming up to tell a Torah story. So as one of their favorite stories from the Torah. But each of these times, we're going to also start with Anenu. So we're going to take a moment now just to learn it, because this will be our refrain for each of the 7 Hakafot.
What an introduction to Anenu. That was Elton John style Anenu. Right, hold on one second. No, it's good. So I'll go Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Repeat that.
Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai Hatzlichana.
Hatzlichana.
Ana Adonai Aneinu Beyom Koreinu. Ay, 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 Anenu, Anenu, Yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu, Yom Koreinu. Ay, 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 Anenu, Anenu, Yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu, Yom Koreinu. Ay, 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 Anenu, Anenu, Yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu.
Great, so we get to do that 7 times. The first Hakafah is going to be introduced with a story by Sarah Elkin and a special ceremony with Rabbi Tom Weiner. So Sarah, come up for the first story.
Hi, everybody. Chag Sameach. So I wanted to talk about my favorite part of the Torah, which happens to have been my bat mitzvah portion, Nitzavim, and it also is the portion we read on Yom Kippur. And it says that God talks to the people and says, these instructions which I give you today are not up high in the heavens that you can't reach them, and they're not way out in the sea, but they're right there in your mouth and in your heart so that you can feel them and see them and speak them and to choose life. So as the kids are doing, choose life, enjoy, and Chag Sameach.
A favorite text of mine has always been the story of Jacob dreaming about the ladder with the angels. I just love that he was in the middle of nowhere, as he thought. Just some dusty piece of ground. He used a rock to be his pillow, thinking he was just in the midst of a journey and nowhere in particular. Had this magnificent dream with the angels coming down and going up the ladder. And at the end of that experience, he realized that the place where he was, said, this place is so incredibly sacred and holy, and I didn't know it. And I just love the concept of us finding our way through life, and every once in a while being someplace we think is simple and nothing and mundane, and something opens our eyes and we realize that that place, that person, that moment is just something incredibly sacred. Speaking of sacred, all of the young children here who are starting in religious school here at Kol Ami, I invite you to come forward because we have a special gift for you. There's plenty of room for you for this consecration moment. Okay, cool. So you know what we're going to do? First, before you get this very cool gift that I'll tell you about, there's a prayer that we're going to say. I'll say a word and you say the word right after me, okay? Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Shehechianu Vekiyamanu Vehigianu Lazman Hazeh. And that's thanking God for giving us life, for keeping us strong and bringing us together at this moment. And in a moment, I'm going to give you all a gift, and Pam is going to give it to you as well. You're all going to get your own little Torah. It's in a beautiful little shiny box, some gold, some silver. So take it home and put it someplace where you keep your most special things, your most special drawer or shelf. So take it and then stay. We're going to stay here for a minute with our Torahs, and the cantor is going to sing a beautiful song just for you guys.
And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechilah.
Beautiful. So on our way to the first dance, we're going to be singing Anenu, and while we're singing, find your place on the dance floor, and Shmulik will guide us into the first fun dance. So Anenu and find your places.
Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hartsdale Chana. Ana Adonai Aneinu v'yom koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Oy Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'yom koreinu.
Chag Sameach, everybody.
Sameach.
Open your hand. And turn and make sure you don't touch anybody. And if you touch, say sorry. Everybody say, Ani.
Ani.
Come on, you know better. Ani. And shape your hand as a heart. Say, Noladati. Are you ready for that? Jump and turn and say, La Shalom. One more time. Ani. Open your heart. Say, Noladati. And jump and turn and say, La Shalom. Beautiful. Here we are. Everybody clap. Show me your hands.
אני נולדתי אל המנגינות ואל השירים של כל המדינות. נולדתי ללשון וגם למקום, למעט להמון, שיושיט יד לשלום.
I want to hear you singing.
אני נולדתי
Torah.
לשלום שרק יגיע.
קדימה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק
Now show
יבוא.
me shoulders. Define.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע.
And turn around. להסתובב.
אני רוצה להיות בבוא.
אחורה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע.
קדימה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא.
Show me כתפיים.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע.
סיבוב.
אני רוצה להיות בבוא.
Ready? Say אני נולדתי שפט על השלום. Woo! I didn't say fall down.
נולדתי לאומה, ולשנים 2000, שורה לאדמה.
ולחלקת שמיים. And clap. And clap.
הנה עולה היום, והשעה יפה.
I want to hear you singing.
שעת שלום.
אחורה.
נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע.
קדימה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא.
Show me כתפיים.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע.
סיבוב.
אני רוצה להיות בבוא.
אחורה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע.
קדימה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא.
You ready?
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע.
סיבוב.
אני רוצה להיות
Be careful. Now jump. אחורה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע.
קדימה.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא.
Show me shoulders.
אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע. אני רוצה להיות בבוא.
Ready for the last one? Say אני נולדתי שפט על השלום. Woo!
Fantastic. The second Hakafa will be introduced by two short favorite stories. Cantor Danny Mendelson and Lisa Borowitz. Listen up.
Hey, everybody. Am I on? Oh, I'm on. All right. So, I've always been struck by a moment in my own bar mitzvah portion, Vayishlach, where Jacob is visited by a mysterious guest who he wrestles with all night. Can you believe that? The general consensus is that the visitor was an angel sent by God. And I remember questioning who this visitor could have been in my Devar Torah all those years ago, just down the block over there. Was it an angel? Was it a prophet? And then I said in my 13-year-old voice, maybe it was just a mugger. And 500 cantors erupted in laughter, and it felt pretty good. After Jacob wrestled with the angel changed Jacob's name to Israel, which means one who wrestles or struggles with God. As the child of two cantors, hi, Mom and Dad, I've struggled and wrestled to think about my own Jewish identity separate from my family's Jewish identity. What does it mean to me and me alone to be Jewish in the world? I can't say that I have a complete answer to that question. I'm not sure I ever will. I'm not sure I'm supposed to. But I am grateful that part of that identity is now here at Kol Ami with all of you. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Chag Sameach, everyone. So there they were, Avram and Sarai. They were just kind of going about their life as a married couple. And all of a sudden, God gets this calling that Avram needs to go forth from the land where he lives and go to a new land. Lech Lecha, which is what Cantor Danny just sang. And I've been struck always by the bravery of Avram and Sarai, who eventually became Abraham and Sarah, to have enough courage to follow their calling, and how much of a lesson it is for all of us to be able, when we feel that we're being called to do something, maybe we won't know what the outcome is, but we know it's something that we really need to do. And how great that every year when we start to reread the Torah, that we have this story to continue to guide us along our way. Chag Sameach.
So introducing the second dance, Anenu, and find your places.
Ana Adonai Hoshiana.
Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai Hatzlichana.
Hatzlichana.
Ana Adonai Yom Koreinu v'Yom Koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. 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 Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu. Anenu Anenu v'Yom Koreinu.
Beautiful. Everybody face me. Open your hands. Remember, liftoch yadayim, sibuv. Make sure you don't touch each other. Yofi. Now take your right foot. Put your heel and back. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4. Step and touch and step and back. Ready? And 4, 4. Back, back. Step and up and step and back. Go to the right 3 steps and go to the left 3 steps. Ready? From beginning. And 4, 4. Back, back. Step up, step back. Right, 2, 3. And left, 2, 3. If you clap, you're genius. This is what you need to do. I love you. You clap and then you turn. Ready? And walk. 1, 2, clap. And turn. 2, 3, 4. Now with the left. Ready? It's a brain test. And 4, 4. Back, back. Left is the other leg. And step up, step back. 1, 2, clap. And turn. 2, 3, 4. Are you ready for music? We're going to mix tradition today.
If it hadn't been for Cotton
Woo!
Eye Joe, I've been married
Backwards,
long time
backwards,
ago.
backwards.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? If it
1,
hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe,
2,
I've been married long time ago. Where
3.
did you come from? Where did you go?
Ready?
Where did you come
And
from,
now.
Cotton Eye Joe?
Go right. And then left.
If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe,
And jump.
I've been married long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Left.
If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I've been married long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Hey, Campbelltown, like a midnight storm.
Thank you.
So do you need to rest for a second? Good. Sit down for a moment. Introducing the third Hakafa, three storytellers, Jeremy Adler, Ellen Bittner, Cheryl Brady.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy. I'm in 12th grade, and I came in here to talk about my Torah story. So I chose to talk about Noah. This is probably the closest thing we've gotten to a Jewish zookeeper. To refresh some of you who don't remember exactly what happened in that story, God decided one day that all of humanity had somehow sinned and they were now bad, so he wanted to get rid of them all with a flood. And apparently Noah was the only person who was righteous enough to live and repopulate the human race. So I got two of each animal, male and female, and they built a big ark, and eventually just went out and when the flood started. And eventually they all found land. There's a dove that reached land, and it's a lot more story, but I want to talk about more what it means to me. I just think it's a really interesting story because this is one of the only Jewish stories that's really replicated in other mythology and religion. There's a lot of stories about floods, and it's all about this sort of sense of renewal or change or fixing a former mistake. It's like there's one in like Egyptian mythology or Christian mythology, and there's also Greek and Roman mythology. And what is it? Every story in the Torah has a purpose. What does this story mean rather than before the Jewish people came? Why is Noah so important? Is it to resemble that God made a mistake with the former human race, but then God doesn't make mistakes? Is it to resemble, that it's new beginnings, or resemble a new idea of people, or just to resemble or does it mean pretty much that we all make mistakes? We go back to that whole thing I said earlier. Does this contradict what we've already said in the Torah? This is actually my bar mitzvah portion when I did a couple years ago, and I remember one thing that made it important to me was that my best friend is deaf, and I wanted to include him in this bar mitzvah process because he didn't know what was really going on. And so I took lessons with Rabbi Shira to learn some sign language. I don't remember it now, so please don't ask me to do it right now. But it meant a lot to me to include him in the process because, when you're friends with someone who has an impairment of some sorts, and especially if they're not Jewish, and my friend isn't Jewish, it was important to bring him to the ceremony and to show him, hey, you understand what's going on, the story that I'm trying to tell, and the importance of this day. So thank you, everybody.
Hag Sameach. And thank you, Jeremy, because what you said segues so beautifully into one of the lessons in my favorite Torah portions, which is Zelophehad's daughter is in the Torah portion of Pinchas. And the Israelites are in the desert. God tells Moses to have a census taken of all the men over 20. And in doing so, the tribes will have the land in the promised land apportioned according to the size of the tribe. And as each tribe's name is said, the father's name is said, and then the sons. When it comes to Zelophehad, they said Zelophehad had no sons, only daughters. And the Israelites are arrayed in tents around the tent of meeting, around the holy ark. And all of the important people are in front. Moses and the chieftains and the priests are in the center around the ark. And Zelophehad's daughters hear this and say, wait a minute, you mean our father is going to be forgotten? His name will be wiped from our history and we won't have any land? And they step forward and they approach Moses and they say, our father had no sons. Shouldn't his name live on? Now, God told Moses to tell the Israelites this is how they would have their portions in the promised land. And Moses is standing there saying to himself, I don't know, they sound reasonable. Moses, and this is where Jeremy's comments really ring true to me, instead of saying, look, God appointed me and I'm going to make the decision, then goes to God and explains the situation to God. And God thinks this over and says to Moses, you know, they're right. Not only should they have a portion in the promised land so that their father's name will live on, but we need to make some other adjustments in the way we deal with inherited property. So we have Moses being able to question God's law, God questioning God's own law and being willing to make changes, and Zelophehad's daughters, who are not part of the important tribes, are a lesson to us saying, even if you don't think you have power or importance, you do. If you see something that you think is unfair or unjust, you have an obligation to yourself and to others to step up, even if it's to the Holy of Holies, and speak to power and to speak to authority and say what you believe to be true and right. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. I would like to connect the creation story, Genesis chapter 1, Parshat Bereshit, in particular the creation of a human being on the sixth day, to the creation of the ark, the Aron, in Exodus chapter 25, Parshat Trumah. In Bereshit, God creates Adam, in God's image, which we know as B'Tselem Elohim. And I learned this from a young age here in religious school at Kol Ami. I grew up here at Kol Ami, and I loved religious school. I learned that each of us, every human being, has a divine spark, a spark of God within. In Terumah, the making of the cover of the ark is described in great detail, pure gold, with cherubim at its two ends, wings spread out above, faces turned to each other. The cover is to be placed on top of the ark after the 10 Commandments have been placed inside. And God goes on to say, there I will meet with you, and I will impart to you from above the cover, from between the two cherubim that are on the cover of the ark. God speaks to us from between two faces, in the space in between, in the relationship that one person has with another, as we are ourselves created in the divine image. When we can truly see another person, see their humanity, see them as created, B'Tselem Elohim, God is present. For me, this all has personal and relevant present-day connection. About 15 or 16 years ago, while serving on the White Plains City School District Strategic Planning Core Team, an intense experience of 4 full days of meetings and conversations, one of our first acts of creation was establishing our core beliefs or core values. When you open the White Plains District calendar, you will still see on the inside cover, we believe that, and the first value listed is all people have intrinsic value. That statement was one of my contributions to the process, the secular version of B'Tselem Elohim, and it actually engendered a great deal of discussion and debate before it was adopted. Much to my surprise, what was obvious and natural to me was not obvious to most of the 35 or so people in the room, the majority of whom were not Jewish. Chag Sameach.
Are you ready for Anenu? Find your places for the fourth dance. Third dance.
Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hatzlichana. Ana Adonai Aneinu V'yom Koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu V'yom Koreinu. Ay 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 Anenu Anenu V'yom Koreinu. Anenu Hanenu, Hanenu, V'yom Koreinu. Hanenu, Hanenu, V'yom Koreinu.
Hey, everybody. Open your hands. Ready? You're such a good dancer. And turn and make sure you don't touch anybody. Do you remember the Macarena? Let's go, but we're going to do it in a Jewish way. You'll watch and say, right and right and left and shoulder and shoulder and neck and hips and twist. Whoop. And you're going to jump and watch this area. Hop. And now we're going to try again. And right and left and switch and shoulder and head and hip and twist and a jump. And now we are facing that area. And right and a left and a right and a left and a shoulder, katef, rosh, motek, and sivuv, and jump. And say hello to Kol Ami. And right and a right and a left and shoulder and knee and twist and a jump. And let's do it with the music. The Hava Nagila Macarena. Yeah, why not? Everybody shake, clap. Ready? 1. Hips. Twist. And jump. And right. And a jump. And up. And hip. And 1 and a jump. Right. And 1. Now, ready for quick one. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and quicker. And a jump. And again, quick. One, 2, and jump. And a jump. Go. And a jump. Woo. And a jump. And a jump. Quick. And a jump. Woo! And a jump. Hands up. Shake. Woo!
The next Hakafah is being introduced by Harrison Strassler and Jess Lorden.
The Torah portion I chose is Vayigash. Vayigash is a portion I hold dear to my heart, not only because it was the portion I read for my bar mitzvah, but because it demonstrates values I practice daily. Values of putting family first. In Vayigash, Judah and his brothers go to Egypt to ask for food from the government. However, unbeknown to them at the time, they were actually confronting their brother Joseph, whom they sold into slavery years prior. Joseph reveals himself to them and lets them know he forgives them for selling him into slavery. After all of this, Joseph offers a new home for his family in the Goshen region of Egypt. At home, I live with my mom, my dad, and my twin brother Stephen. So far, my brother hasn't done anything to me which could justify selling him into slavery, and thankfully we have a great relationship. However, the part about Joseph treating his family to a new home contains ideals I aspire to incorporate into my life. Whenever someone in my family needs support or anything else, I'm more than willing to do whatever it takes to help them. Obviously, at this point in my life, I can't afford to move my whole extended family into a new location, but I can do other things that demonstrate my respect and love for my family. This can be as small as helping my brother study for his tests or just being there for him when he's feeling down. To be like Joseph, you don't need to spend an immense amount of money or change someone's life. All you have to do is be there for your family. Chag Sameach.
Hi, I'm Jess, and Chag Sameach. Like many others, I thought about sharing the portion from my bat mitzvah, but instead I chose the portion from our son Robbie's bar mitzvah, and that portion is Vayakel, which is from Exodus. And the setting for the scene is that they're making the portable tabernacle, which is called the Mishkan. And Moses is talking to the Israelites, and he says the following. He says, "This is what God has commanded. Take from you among your gifts to God, everyone whose heart so moves him or her shall bring them gifts for God." This is not a request just to the leaders or a specific population, but rather to every single person who is part of the community. Moreover, what is important is not the value of the quality or the quality of the gifts to God, but that they come from peoples whose hearts are moved by the desire to participate. The offerings themselves matter because they are presented by community members who are willing and eager to contribute to a shared project. The project is the tabernacle, a dwelling for God's presence. Without each person's gifts of the heart, the tabernacle would not have been built. Without individuals who are willing to be open and generous, giving of themselves to the best of their abilities, it is much more difficult for God to manifest within our community. This verse reminds me that in order to create a sacred space for God's presence to dwell, we first must create a sacred community. That means both being present for others as they share their personal gifts and also being willing to share our skills and our talents in whatever capacity we can. This is how we invite God into our lives. We can see Moses' ask of the people as a prayer. It's still relevant today. In a moment in time when sacred community, appreciation of others, and openness to different ideas seem more and more rare, may we continue the work of making this world a place that invites in God's presence. May we strive to contribute our gifts to our communities to the best of our abilities, and may our hearts be moved to be participants in holy work. Chag Sameach.
Find your places.
Adonai Hoshiana.
Hoshiana.
Adonai Hatzlichana.
Hatzlichana.
Adonai Aneinu V'yom Koreinu. Aneinu V'yom Koreinu. Aneinu V'yom Koreinu. Aneinu V'yom Koreinu. Anenu b'yom 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 koreinu.
Beautiful. How's everybody doing? Woo! Okay, come to the middle. Come on, boys and girls, everybody, parents, open your hands. Guys, I'm here. I'm in the front. You want to see me? Go back, go back. Go back, you can see me. Okay? Are you ready? You see my right? Okay, we're going to do the slide. And right, left, right, left, right, left. We're going to go to the right and to the left. 3 steps. And 1, 2, 3, hold, back, 2, 3, hold. Now we're going to go backward. Right, left, stay, 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 and take your right up and touch. And now we are facing Kol Ami. And right, right, and left, right, left. Back, 2, 3, left, hold, right, hold, up, and right, left, right, left. Backwards, 3, 4, stay, stay, and a brush, and right, left, left. Back, 2, 3, stay, stay, and a 1 brush. Let's do it with the music. Yalla. Even if you don't know, just follow me. Here we are.
It's electric.
1, 2. 1, 2, 3, go.
It's electric.
And a back.
It's electric.
And go right.
It's electric.
Ahora. And right.
It's electric.
And back. Stay. Stay. And a brush. And a back. And brush. And. Woo! And back. And brush.
It's electric. It's electric. It's electric. It's electric. It's electric.
And back. Thank you very much.
Introducing the next hackathon. Thank you, Paul, for giving us some light. We have Steve Brady, Zoe Moskowitz, and Pam Pass. Torah Stories in the Dark.
Yeah, I hope this one doesn't end up being scary. But anyway, one Torah story that's very close to my heart is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. And it was therefore a unique honor to have been asked. Okay, I will eat the microphone if I have to. It was then a unique honor to have been asked to read this passage on Rosh Hashanah this year. Now, I know a common response to this story is child sacrifice. I have a lot of trouble with that. And while it's not my place to be an apologist for the source of Torah, I've always read it differently. I've thought of it as a story about the limitations of parenthood. That children do not belong to their parents. We have a sacred obligation to raise our children, to teach them, to instill values in them, and to provide for them the opportunities that will enable them to create lives for themselves. But in the end, we cannot dictate how they live their lives. Even our ability to protect them is limited as they begin to make their way in the world. Just ask any parent who's handed over the car keys to their child for that child's first solo drive. Now, I understand that permitting our children to engage in potentially dangerous activities is not the same thing as reaching for a knife ourselves. And the personal importance of a Torah story is not always about the substance of that story. For me, the connection I feel to the Akedah is anchored in a three-word phrase that occurs twice in the text. Vayelchu shnechem yachdav, and the two of them went together. It appears as Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham's servants set out for the land of Moriah. Now notice, the servants aren't included in that. It's indicative of the fact that there's a very special relationship between parent and child. And it appears again right after Abraham reassures Isaac that God will see to the animal for the sacrifice, which Isaac has observed is missing. Now, when I grew up, my synagogue arranged for a small group of us to continue studying Hebrew after bar mitzvah. And we had class on a weekday evening, and my father used to drive me. My father, if you knew him, was habitually on time, which is to say he was always early. And so we would always arrive early, but that meant that I could sit in the car and talk with him before it was time for me to go in for class. Well, one day my Hebrew teacher came up to me and said that each time she arrived and saw us sitting there, she was reminded of this very phrase, Vayelchu shnehem yachdav. And from that day on, this story has been very special for me. It helps keep my father close to me, even in my memories. Thank you, and Chag Sameach.
When I was thinking about what parsha I should talk about, there was only one that came to my mind, my bat mitzvah parsha. When I thought about it even more, it became a perfect portion to talk about today. My parsha was Bereshit, the one that we're reading today. There is the obvious reason why it's my favorite. It reminds me of one of the best nights I've had, but it also reminds me of the Simchat Torah services that I love to come to. They are by far my favorite service because it's more festive than the other services with all the music and dancing. Everyone is up and smiling with the entire congregation. Even though COVID is restricting us from being as close as together we were before, I still think of this as my favorite service because we are all here together in person, which is way more than any of us thought would happen a year ago. In this parsha, Bereshit, we learn about how God created our world in 7 days. I think God created the world because he wants it to be good, and all of the people and things in it to be good. The word good shows up a lot in this parsha. God created us in his image, and this is exactly what he would want, to see all of us gathered together, doing good and celebrating, in spite of all that's going on in the world.
Okay, so this is such a wonderful multi-generational celebration, I have to say, with the little kids here all the way to, as I'm leaning maybe towards a little bit the other end of that spectrum. One of my favorite stories is contained actually in two parshiot, Vayeshev and Miketz. It is the story of Joseph and his brothers. My Aunt Etta told me a version of this story growing up, and I never forgot it. And I need everybody's help. When I go, you can't see me, but when I pause, you're going to say, "That's good." Can you do that? That's good. That's good. And then the next pause, you're going to say, "That's bad." And we're going to go back to "That's good, that's bad." So, once upon a time, there was a boy named Joseph. His father, Jacob, bought him a brand new robe, but not just any robe. No, this was red and yellow and green and blue and striped. No, that's bad, because Joseph's 11 brothers became really jealous since a coat of many colors was only worn by important people. So they said, "Who does little brother think he is wearing a robe like that?" No, that's good. Joseph had a dream that he was going to be someone important, all right, the leader of a great nation, and that someday his brothers would have to bow down to him. So Joseph tried to explain that to his 11 brothers. No, that's bad. Joseph's brothers got so mad they ripped up his brand new coat and threw him head first into a deep hole in the ground. And so the story goes back and forth until Joseph becomes an advisor to Pharaoh, until the Israelites are enslaved, until the Israelites are freed, are given the 10 Commandments, or enter Israel. Let's try a more modern version, one to which we can all personally relate. Since COVID showed up, everything, including learning, has changed. We can't learn or do much of anything as we used to. Kids and parents have crazy schedules. That's bad. Not so fast. Religious school is meeting in person, indoors and out, having joyous religious school classes together. That's good. Well, even outside we have to stay socially distant, and it's sometimes hard to hear each other. That's bad. But we have awesomely talented and enthusiastic teachers who are making the very best of this situation and engaging our religious school children in creative ways of learning. That's great. So, one could argue that nothing is inherently good or bad. It's just where you are in the story. Or, my favorite word in the English language, in your willingness to frame what has happened not as that's bad, but as that's not good yet. Yet is my favorite word. It is filled with possibility, with the temporary nature of something bad happening, with trust in God, people, the universe, that good will follow. That's good. Chag Sameach.
Ana Adonai, Hoshiana,
Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai, Hatzlichana,
Hatzlichana.
Ana Adonai, V'yom Koreinu. Let's go. Anenu, Anenu, V'yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu, V'yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu, V'yom Koreinu. Anenu, Anenu, V'yom Koreinu.
And introducing the sixth Hakafa, we invite up Jack Berger, and then we'll do a last dance and then open up the Torah.
Hello, Chag Sameach,
Chag Sameach.
everyone. If you can, I can see some of you still here. So when Jess asked me to see if I can tell something about my favorite Parsha story, I said, well, I don't have a favorite one because I actually find everything fascinating in the Torah. And so what I decided was to tell a certain something that happened a couple of years ago. In 2018, I was on a trip to Italy with my wife and some friends, and we stopped in a synagogue in Rome, and then we went to the synagogue in Florence. So as we went to a great synagogue, in a beautiful Sephardic synagogue, we went upstairs to the exhibit hall, and there were different things that we usually see in an exhibit, like things, bridal wear, and different parts of life in the 1800s. In the middle of the room was a Sefer Torah in a glass case, and it struck me, it really drew my attention. I couldn't find any information about it, but as I was looking at it, a few people came up to also to this exhibit hall, and they were not Jewish, but it came from some country, whether it was Denmark or a different country. They asked me about it. They asked me the significance of the Torah. So I explained that it's the history of the Jewish people, and it's central to our culture and religion. And then they looked at me. This was in a glass case. It was a damaged Torah, and they asked me if I could read it. So I started scanning the first section and the second section, and I found a section I could read without difficulty, and it was not too hard because every paragraph, almost every paragraph, starts with V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Like God spoke to Moses and said to them. And this section started with V'yidaber Adonai el Aaron. And I said, Aaron gets attention in this portion. So I read a couple lines and translated. And so the point of this story is that the Torah is so central to our lives, and that everywhere you go, anywhere you go in the world, if you see a Sefer Torah, you can identify as being part of a greater thing. And so after that trip, I emailed, and just as an aside, the Torah was probably from the 1700s, and it was damaged in a flood in 1966 and from overflowing rain. But aside from that, it led me to say, it became my pandemic Torah, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to show you. So when I came home, I decided I was going to get a Sefer Torah of my own. So actually, this is from Israel. It's not made of parchment, but it's the entire Sefer Torah. So when I came home, I looked at the photograph. It was very blurry, but I found the section that I read, and I said, wow, it's like amazing to be able to come back home and relate to that. So for me, there's no single favorite story, but everything in the Torah is my favorite story. And I think it became my pandemic Torah, because when we had services, I used to open the Torah on Shabbat morning while we were doing Zoom services, and I could definitely relate to that. And this was our pandemic Torah as well, so it's kind of like almost like a little cousin of that one. Thank you. Chag Sameach, everyone.
Watch your step. We're up for the last dance.
We are the survivors.
Let's do another Anenu real quick. Ready? Ana Adonai Hoshiana.
Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai Hatzlichana.
Hatzlichana.
Ana Adonai Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu, Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu, Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu, Anenu v'yom koreinu. Anenu, Anenu v'yom koreinu.
Beautiful. Everybody say Hine.
Hine.
Matov.
Matov.
Uma.
Naim.
Shevet. Achim. Gam Yachad. Use your hands like me. And a two, and make a whole circle. 1, 2, 3. And a back. And a 2, and a 1, 2, 3. And Hine Matov Umanaim. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanaim. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Raise your hand up. Hine Matov, and down. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Up. Hine Matov. Cantor, can you help us? Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Everybody go.
Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hands up and go.
Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov.
And the faster version, the same end. Hine matovu manaim,
shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manaim, shevet achim gam.
Everybody clap. And hine matov, hine matov. Raise your hand. And clap.
Hine matov, hine matov.
And back. And a faster go.
Hine matov umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Great job.
A very beautiful and exciting moment is when we get to give a big, wide view of the Torah and read from its very beginning and very end. Things are a little different. So I'm going to invite our two main Torah carriers to uncover the Torah scroll and to bring it here. We're going to need about 15 adults to stand behind us and to hold the scroll as we do each year. About every 3 feet, a responsible adulty type person. And then we need all the children to be here so that you can see the Torah as it's opened up, so that we can hear the very end of the Torah and the very beginning of the story.
Okay. Hevenu. We start with Hevenu. Yeah. Just get us warmed up. Hevenu Shalom. Simchas Torah. My mic's supposed to be on. Yeah. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Elechem Dalibi. Elechem Dalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem da. Hamdalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem Dalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem da. Hamdalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem Dalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem da. Hamdalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem Dalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Elechem da. Hamdalibi. Chusana ve'anat talem. Sagoy el goy cherev. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא ייסגוי אל גוי חרב. לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. ישמחו השמיים. ישמחו השמיים. ישמחו השמיים. מתגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים. ישמחו השמיים. ישמחו השמיים. מתגל הארץ. ירם הים. ירם הים. ירם הים ומלוא. ירם הים. ירם הים. ירם הים ומלוא.
Because of the dark, we're not able to open the whole Torah safely right here. But we're still going to chant and hear the end of Devarim and the very beginning of Breshit, and all together join in Aliyah. And Cantor Danny will lead us in an Aliyah.
Goes down and hold the book.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
The very last words of Torah. Velo kam navi od beYisrael kemoshe, asher yado Adonai panim el panim. And there never again arose in Israel a prophet as great as Moses, who knew God personally, who experienced God face to face. L'chol ha'otot v'hamovtim asher shalacho Adonai la'asot be'eretz Mitzrayim. And all of the wondrous deeds that he performed before the people of Israel in the land of Egypt, leFaro ulachol avadav ulachol aratzo, before Pharaoh, before all of his servants, and before all of the land. Ulachol hayad hachazaka ulachol hamorah hagadol, and with all of the awesome deeds and the mighty power. Asher asa Moshe, that Moses did la'enei, that Moses did perform before all of the people of Israel.
Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu v'choshech al pnei tehom, ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim, vayomer Elohim yehi or. God said, let there be light. Vayehi or, vayad Elohim et haor ki tov, vayavdeh Elohim ben haor uven hachoshech, Vayikra Elohim la'or yom ve'lachoshech kara layla, vayihi erev vayivoker yom echad. It was evening and it was morning, a new day, the first day.
Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
As the Torah scroll is rolled close, we know this is our new one because the ink looks like it's wet. It reflects the light. There's something special about this ink. So you can see as the light is bouncing off it, you can tell that it's our very new Torah that all of us were involved in bringing to life also. And so as the Torah is rolled, we continue to sing with Cantor Danny.
Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, 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 Am Yisrael Chai. Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai. Oh, Yishama, Hare Yehuda, oh, Bechutzos, Yerushalayim. Oh, Yishama, Hare Yehuda, oh, Bechutzos, Yerushalayim. Kol Sason ve'kol Simcha, Kol Chatan ve'kol Kala, Kol Sason ve'kol Simcha, Kol Chatan ve'kol Kala. Oh, Yishama, Hare Yehuda, oh, Bechutzos,
Chag Sameach.
Few more, let's go.
And everyone is welcome to dance. You're also welcome to eat if you'd like.
שפתם מים בששון ממעייני הישועה, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, שפתם מים בששון ממעייני הישועה, שפתם מים בששון ממעייני הישועה, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, ממעייני הישועה, ממעייני הישועה, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 הם מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון, מים, 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 מים בששון. נגילה הבה, נגילה הבה, נגילה ונשמחה הבה, נגילה הבה, נגילה הבה, נגילה ונשמחה הבה, נרננה, הבה, נרננה, הבה, נרננה, נשמחה הבה, נרננה, הבה, נרננה, הבה, נרננה ונשמחה. אחים, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים, אורחים, אורחים ונשמח. הבה נגילה, הבה נגילה, הבה נגילה ונשמחה. הבה נגילה, הבה נגילה, הבה נגילה ונשמחה. הבה נרננה, הבה נרננה, הבה נרננה ונשמחה. הבה נרננה, הבה נרננה, הבה נרננה ונשמחה. אחים, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים ונשמח, אורחים, אורחים ונשמח. חג שמח!
Chag Sameach. Pam Pass taught us not everything is good and bad or black and white, except for black and white cookies. Chag Sameach.